Everyone. Woo! How are you feeling?
Woo!
Nice.
Come on, you can do better than that. How you feeling? Happy Friday.
Happy Thursday. No, it's Thursday.
It's always Happy Friday.
It's always Happy Friday.
Anyways, we are here with Jesse Pollak from Base. Everyone, does he need an introduction? Does he?
No.
But the name of this talk is actually the future of the on-chain economy, and for what does that mean?
Before we get into that, can everyone just join me in standing up for 1 second? Standing up for 1 second and giving Ted a huge round of applause.
Thank you.
I mean, what a force. This is a tour de force. Hey everybody, thank you. Thanks for having me, Ted. Thanks for having me, FarCon. Super glad to be here. Honestly, my brain is just a little bit melted looking at how many people are here, how many people I've gotten to know over the last many years, who are now, mostly I've met on the internet, but now are here together in person. And first question is what is an on-chain economy? This is an on-chain economy.
Yeah.
This is what it is. It's all of us, all the people in this room coming together and creating the next generation of the internet and building that generation of the over the next few years, I think are going to come together to be a part of really what is going to be the first global economy that humanity's ever seen. Where no matter who you are, no matter where you're born, no matter where you live, you're going to have the opportunity to be a part of this incredible economy that brings people together, that gives them a platform to create their business, to raise their family, to live out their dreams, and change the world. So I think when I think about on-chain economy, I think about all of us and all the work that we're doing to come together to create it.
I love that. How many of you have bought something on chain here today already?
Yeah.
Nice.
How many of you before today had bought something on chain in person?
Woo! Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies, okay, there we go. But I mean, how many of you before a year ago had bought something on chain in person? How many before 2 years ago? Okay, it's fewer and fewer.
How many of them are lying? Just kidding.
I think it's really illustrative of the reality that what we're starting to see is really exponential growth and speed in the rate at which the world is coming on chain. The world is starting to get kind of sucked into this on-chain economy that all of us are building. So pretty special.
Super special. Any of you who listen to my podcast, Many Such Cases with Nonlinear, shout out to Johnny, know that I fundamentally believe that economies are built on top of societies, obviously, and societies are social networks, and Farcaster in and of itself is a social network. And so I'm curious, how do you see consumer apps and social networks like Farcaster helping contribute or drive innovation in this on-chain economy?
Yeah, I think when I've been thinking and talking for the last few years about what does it actually take for us to bring the entire world on chain, I've said there are really three things. One is that we need better, faster, cheaper fees for networks. We need everything to just work and to be low cost. And I think that's what Base is contributing to this mix. The second thing is we need better wallets. And we're starting to make progress on that. It feels like we're making more and more progress every day. But then the third thing is we actually need to know who people are on chain. In order to build that next generation of products, you need to know who are you and who are you connected to. And when I think about what is a social network, that's what it is. It's basically this substrate that for the last 20, 30 years has been owned and controlled by a small number of centralized businesses who've set their own rules, who've excluded people at times, who have extracted, I think, from the people who brought the most value into those ecosystems. And for the first time, what we're seeing emerge now is that same substrate, the same open set of networks where people can connect, but for the first time, it's built in a totally open way. And when I think about who is embodying that and who is leading that charge, it's FarCaster. From the beginning, from whenever it was, 2.5, 3 years ago when FarCaster started, I think Dan and Varun and the team of people that they built, they said, we are going to believe in a world where the social network that we all live our lives through is open. It's permissionless. It's accessible to everyone. It's something that developers can build on with complete confidence that they will always have access to it. And I think this room and the products that we're starting to see emerge on chain over the last 6 to 12 months, I think it's literally just day one of what that level of openness and that platform is going to enable. Because I think we've seen how much social network as an idea has created innovation and economy over the last 20 years, but all of those networks have been locked down. And with FarCaster, for the first time, we have that same power that's going to be open to everyone. And that's going to be, I think it's going to be 100 times, 1,000 times bigger, more important, more impactful in terms of changing the world than anything we've seen before.
Yeah, what was Varun saying earlier? 4 orders of magnitude away from 1 billion.
That's exactly right. That's what I think about. Every morning I wake up, I'm literally like 4 orders of magnitude. We got it.
Just 4 orders of magnitude.
Just 4 orders of magnitude. Only 4, right? It doesn't seem that much. And if you look at where we were, I mean, 2 years ago, when I think a lot of people in this room were casting on FarCaster, there was like 1,000 people there. And today there's tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people there. And to have done that in just a couple of years, I think is pretty remarkable. And I think one of the things that the rest of the world doesn't see is crypto has been in this kind of weird growth cycle that's atypical for the last 10 years, where it's been mostly flat, and then you've had these kind of speculative spikes that have really been driven by price action. But if you look at kind of how products historically grow, right? You look at a TikTok or you look at a Facebook, those things, once they start growing, they go vertical and you have exponential growth. And I think we've basically been in our flat part of the exponential growth for the last 12 years. And so we've all kind of gotten conditioned of like, it's never going to grow or it's going to take forever. But at some point, I think that point is right now, we're starting to bend up that curve. And once we start bending that curve, it's not going to be flat growth. It's not going to be just a bull market that then crashes. It's not going to be another 10 years. It's going to happen in months. And we're going to go from having hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions to billions of people, I think, on the order of months in a small number of years. And so I think that inflection point, we're either about to hit or we have just hit. And the rest of the world doesn't see it because they don't understand the technology. They don't understand the platform. But the people in this room, I feel like we all know the secret, that this kind of critical mass has been achieved. And now it's just up to us to keep spinning the flywheel, keep building products, keep bringing in new people from off the street to get them into FarCaster. And then we're just going to get all the way there very, very fast.
How many of you are building on Base? Wow.
It's like I'm tearing up a little bit.
How many of you are, I guess you're all building on Base and FarCaster, and it's kind of crazy to think that Base is just over a year old.
8 months.
It's 8 months?
8.5.
Oh my God.
Mainnet. Base mainnet launched at the beginning of August. And so, yeah, we're about 8.5, about to be 9 months old on the 9th.
Wow. And so can you walk us through what launch looked like last year and then what you guys are thinking about? Are you celebrating the 1 year anniversary? Are you having like a 1 year birthday party? Like, what are you thinking?
It's too early to celebrate. It's still day one, and that's definitely what I try every morning when I wake up. And I think 4 orders of magnitude. The other thing I think is day one. Like we need to stay humble. We need to keep building. I mean, the launch for Base, Base wasn't a thing where we were like, oh, we're gonna go build Base and it's gonna be awesome. Base was a thing where it was like, we're gonna trudge through the mud for 1.5 years, having no idea what we're building, having the team get shut down, building a bunch of products that failed, and then kind of through all that work, I feel like we kind of discovered Base. It was like, oh, maybe this is the thing we should be building. But even when we discovered it, I definitely didn't feel like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a hit. Like this is gonna work. Mostly what I felt was a lot of fear. I was like, okay, I think there's something here, but in order for this thing to work, the only way that it works is if first tens and then hundreds and then thousands of people believe in it. Because at the end of the day, Base is an economy and it's a multi-sided market. And in order to get that economy going, you need people to believe in the future that you're creating so that they invest their time, their energy, their heart into making it. And I think when we found Base and we started building it, we started talking to people, the primary feeling I felt was like, no one's going to love our economy. They're going to think it's going to be too centralized. They're going to think it's coming from a company that's tried to do this before and it's going to fail. They're going to say, oh, we're too late. There's already other economies that we want to be a part of. And so you literally up to the day when we did the blue dot thing, which we thought of like the day before, we're like, maybe we should launch the blue dot and get everyone to add it to their Slack statuses. I was feeling fear of like, is it going to come together? Are people going to believe in us? And I think what we experienced was almost the opposite of what I expected. Instead of people organ rejecting or being like, oh no, this isn't for us, people were like, we've been waiting for this. We are ready for this. We want to be a part of this with you. And that was in February. That was when we launched the testnet. And then I had another whole thing of fear where we started thinking about this idea called On-Chain Summer that was going to be bigger than Base. We tried to get people to come and do it with us. We went to a ton of people and a lot of people said no. They were like, we're not sure this is going to be real. We're not sure you're going to be serious. And then like a small number of people said yes. And I've never been more anxious in my life. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep for like 6 months. And then we launched it. And once again, people were like, no, we're here for this. We want to be a part of this. We want to help bring the world on chain. And I think that like response, that energy has been the thing that has defined Base again and again. It's been us coming with something and saying, hey, we want to believe in this on-chain future. We want to believe in this global on-chain economy, but we cannot do it alone. And we've been met with, we believe too. And that's the greatest gift. It's the greatest gift I could have ever asked for in my entire life. It's been the most meaningful thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. And I think it's defined Base up until this point and defines Base every single day that we get to work on it.
Talking about defining Base, how many of you in the audience would consider yourselves based? There we go. I still don't really know what it means. So, what does it mean to be based? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, I think the thing to know about Base, and I hope people in the audience know this already, like Base is not an invention of Base, the Ethereum L2. Like Base is a cultural thing that predates us. And there's a long history of like a cultural legacy, starting with Lil B, the Base God, coming from Black communities, predominantly in America, that have created this term that I think a lot of people look at and when they hear the word Base, they think about creativity, they think about authenticity, they think about being themselves, even if that's scary. When I think about Base, I think about like doing the right thing, even when it's hard. I think about like believing in each other. And I think our like goal with using the word Base has been to add to that fabric. Not to say we know what this means, but to instead say we are building a new economy and we believe it can be a based economy, one that embraces those values, that honors that heritage, that culture, and that believes in a world that lives by those values. And I think, once again, we're starting to see other people define what that means. There's a thing called the Base Institute that I've been working on that's like separate and distinct from Coinbase. It's not affiliated. It's me by myself. And we just did this grants program where we asked people what does Base mean to them. And I think like 80 people took time to think about it, to write a Farcaster post and then get rewarded for contributing to it. And you read through it and A, you have an incredible diversity of who's sharing what that means to them. B, you have an incredible diversity of what it actually means. And C, I think you're starting to see this almost like convergence of people coming together and saying, like, Base recognize Base. And like, we can see and recognize who the people are who have this intuitive sense and quality of being value and culture bearers for what this word means. And so I think it will continue to evolve. We'll continue to find ways to recognize the past and bring it in to the future. But I don't think it's going to be something that happens overnight or has a completion. Like we're not going to figure out what based is and then now we know what it is. It's more this is going to be the work. Like based is the work of for the next many years, next decades. I mean, I'm wearing this based era shirt that thank you base God like kind of created the term based era. And I think when people were saying this word base season, and they said base era because the work we are doing is happening on the order of decades. And that to me feels like, I mean, that feels based. It's like thinking on decades, thinking about this century is based. And the level of change and impact and positive outcomes we can drive in the world, that's based.
That is based. Okay. It's funny that you say eras. Are there any other Swifties out here? Yeah.
Woo!
Woo! You say era and they're like, it's a decade. And I'm like, oh, it's like one relationship. So another question. Well, I think there's a lot of consumer apps out here too that started building on Ethereum L1. And then as soon as Base came out, they all transitioned and ended up seeing a huge influx of users because it made it super easy. So like one shout out is to Unlonely. I love the Unlonely team.
Shout out Unlonely.
You're on it right now.
Anyways, and so I'm curious, like, how are you seeing, what consumer apps are you seeing come to Base? And is it a certain, obviously they're probably based, as you say, like they have to be based, but what consumer apps are you seeing that you're really excited about? And then what consumer apps do you want to be seeing more of that you're not seeing come across the ecosystem right now?
I mean, there's too many to name, but I'll name a few. And I think one of the things that we've tried to encourage from the beginning, and that was like what originally drove On-Chain Summer, was really trying to make the space for a massive diversity of products that people were going to build. Like we didn't want Base to be financial. We didn't want it to be, just, a certain component. We wanted it to be an open global economy that anyone could participate in. And I think when you look at the consumer products that have been successful around the world, even predating kind of on-chain, I think that's what you see. You see that there are consumer products that have reached massive scale across every single segment: food, music, media, shopping. Literally name your favorite thing, and there's a consumer app that's reached billions of people, because that's what it's all about. And so I think when I look at the base economy and how the base economy is shaping up, I think we're seeing similar things. You have people doing food on-chain. We have on-chain coffee. You have Blackbird doing on-chain restaurants. You have people building games on-chain, right? Like Speed Tracer, Sammy's in the audience somewhere, Base Paint, incredible use of the technology that exists in this new platform to bring people all around the world to play and have fun on-chain, which I think is really important. You have media on-chain. Think about Zora, you think about Unlonely, where people are, for the first time, bringing their media, their content that historically they've locked in these walled gardens that have been owned by large corporations who've extracted most of the value into this new open substrate, and they're benefiting from it. And then they're seeing all of the other creativity that emerges when they put it on the open platform. Your social coming on-chain, obviously we're here, FarCon, I think, has been leading the way, and we're proud to be a part of that. And so I think we are seeing a massive diversity. In terms of what we want to see more of, I wouldn't say there's one specific thing. I'd more say I want to just see more shots on goal. Like the thing about consumer products, and if you talk to VCs or whatever, they are this weird, like kind of mercurial thing where you never know where the next big consumer product is going to come from. And so I don't feel like I can sit up here on stage and be like, this is going to be it. Instead, I feel like the best thing I can do is say, y'all are going to be it. Like this group of people, the people in this audience who are based and who are building on Farcaster and who understand the culture and who are bringing their unique expertise of their part of the world that they love and figuring out how to do it on chain in a way that the world probably can't understand today, but will understand over the next 10 years because the products are going to be better. Like, y'all are going to take the shots on goal that eventually turn into products that billions of people use. And it's only a matter of time. And it feels like every day we inch closer to, again, hitting that inflection point, having us start to go viral. And the people in this room are going to be people who create it.
Speaking of, I'm looking out and there's probably some people getting a little toasted in the seats out there. Thank you for sitting in the sun. But it feels like summer. It's starting to feel like summer in LA.
Like summer.
And I know that last year, we were just talking about, you were like grinding to find people who would partner with you for On-Chain Summer. So what are you thinking about? Are you doing it?
On-Chain Summer's coming back, y'all. And I think one thing that I want to be really clear about is On-Chain Summer is not base. Like, this is not a base thing. We want to contribute to it. We're going to do everything we can to make it a meme and make it a thing, but it's way bigger than us. It's about everyone coming together, whether you're on base, whether you're on another Ethereum L2, whether you're somewhere else in the world, building on another technology platform, to believe in this future. And Sarah, who created On-Chain hats and runs marketing over there in the white hat, wave Sarah, hey, thank you everyone. She has this idea of like a cyclicality of the way we think about bringing the world on-chain. And she's kind of planted it in the base team's head that like in the spring we build, in the summer we grow, and then in the fall we learn, and then we run it back the next year. And we're gonna keep running that until literally the entire world is on-chain. And so this summer, we're running back On-Chain Summer. On-Chain Summer 2, we'll just call it On-Chain Summer because every summer is On-Chain Summer. I think the big thing that's gonna be different about this summer is everyone's gonna have more time to prepare, and we're gonna be mostly focused on just building infrastructure, platforms, funding, distribution mechanisms that give a platform to incredible builders. It's not going to be about us being like, oh yeah, this is On-Chain Summer. It's going to be about us saying, oh, now we have, I think it's like $2 million that's just going to go to people who are building on-chain this summer to build cool stuff. And now we have these ads that are going to be running all around the world to show off all the cool stuff that people build. And now we're going to be doing onboarding in person to get people to actually go and use those cool things. And so I think the thing that's coming with On-Chain Summer is emergent. Like, I don't even know what it is, but again, I know that the people in this room are going to be the people who create it. And so I guess if I could make an ask, my ask would be start dreaming. Start thinking about what you want to bring on-chain this summer. Start thinking about who you want to bring on-chain this summer, whether it's your best friend or your parents or your local community or your club, whether it's your people online or it's your people in person. The more you can figure out what is your unique perspective, and then figure out how do you translate that unique perspective into some new product or go-to-market or experiment that takes a shot on goal at bringing 1 million people on chain, I think the faster we're going to hit that inflection point. And my hope is that the inflection point is this summer, and that we start going, and on-chain summer turns into on-chain fall, turns into on-chain winter, and by next summer, there are literally billions of people on chain.
It's just summer.
It's just summer,
it's
all
just
the time.
Summer. How many of you guys are going to participate in On-Chain Summer this year?
Yeah, let's go.
Wow. Hell yeah. There we go. Anyways, I know I've almost stolen all of the time to ask you some questions. And so I know that we also got questions from the audience. And so we'll have Colin ask some of the questions, open questions for Jesse for the next 20 or so minutes, starting with the FarCon channel questions, right?
Hell yeah. Huge shout out to Colin for organizing and Ponder for organizing the questions. Thanks, Colin.
Can we get the mic? Okay, we got the mic. All right, so we're gonna start the questions that were posted in the channel first, and then we'll get to the audience questions after. So start thinking now, folks. And we're gonna start this off with something that's just super friendly and nice. What mistakes do you think Base has made so far, and how could we learn from them?
I mean, I was just talking. What's going on there? I feel like I was just talking a little bit about one of the mistakes that I felt like we made last summer, which I feel like with On-Chain Summer last summer, I think it turned out really well. We had so much energy around it, but I think one of the things that we a little bit missed on it, unsurprising to me that we missed on it, is I think going into On-Chain Summer, we felt like we really had to like line everything up. It was like, oh yeah, we got to have something every day that's really good, and if it's not going to be really good, it's going to fail. And then when I look at like what was the most exciting, inspiring, like generative stuff, it was not the stuff that we planned. I mean, of course, there was awesome stuff that we planned, but like the stuff that was impactful was the stuff that emerged organically, that the people in this room and people all across the internet and all across the world invented in like a matter of days and weeks. And so I think this is an unsurprising bias, but it's a bias that I feel like me and the team have sometimes run into, where we come from a centralized place, right? Like Coinbase is a centralized company, it's a public company, and at times there's a lot of pressure to have predictability, and like we need to figure it all out. And I think in decentralized open economies, you actually want to like err more on the side of chaos, where it's like the more open space you can create for other people to fill with their generative ideas and their creativity, the better outcomes that you're going to get. And I feel like this is kind of like a lesson that we continually relearn. And it's not just us, I feel like it's actually a lot across the entire industry, where many of our brains have been programmed, all of our brains have been programmed for the last however long we've been alive, for the economy that is a centralized economy, that is run by these corporate like bastions that control everything, and run by centralized governments that have all of the control in the world. And I think the thing about crypto and the thing about on-chain is that it's literally a complete paradigm shift. Like everything is changed. Instead of having natural forces for centralization, for the first time we have natural forces that create decentralization, because literally the substrate that we all build on, Ethereum, is so decentralized that it bleeds up through everything else and forces it to decentralize further. And so I think the mistake that we have continually made and then continually tried to fix is being too centralized, is over-indexing on control and planning. And we've been trying to unindex ourselves on that and rewire our brains. So we think, okay, how do we do this in an emergent way first?
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to skip to a question that's highly irrelevant then. Coinbase is centralized, but Base seems to be Farcaster's institutional darling, so to speak. Why do you think Base has captured the trust of this community so much better than other Coinbase products have? Not that we don't trust the other ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, shout out to other Coinbase products. I think they've done a great job. And Coinbase Wallet, for instance, I think is having a little bit of a moment right now with the smart wallet and the user experience. I think that's been great. Obviously, Coinbase has had such a brand for trust, and people have loved using that product to get on chain for the last 12 years. And I actually think that the reason why Base has been successful is because we've been able to combine two things that are no one else has really done. And one of them is that. One of them is that Coinbase has a trusted brand that has been around for literally 12 years. That so many of us, I think, experienced crypto for the first time through. And we've known that, Coinbase was going to be someone who stood up for the industry, someone who fought the SEC, someone who advocated for better experience for users. And so I think the thing that Base did is it took that brand and that trust, and then it figured, okay, that trust and brand is really valuable, but if we try and apply it in the same way, we're not going to get to a good outcome. And so instead, what we need to figure out is how do we apply that trust and brand onto a maximally decentralized context. And so we didn't go and build our own L1. That was going to be a silo. Instead, we decided to build as an Ethereum L2. We didn't go and build our own L2 stack. Instead, we decided to go build on the OP stack, on an MIT licensed code base, where every single contribution we made would serve everyone else. And I think as we've thought about doing the go-to-market, at every point what we've been focused on is how do we get to the end decentralized state faster? And then how do we support and lift up the people who are creating and building on Base to make it so that they're the ones who are benefiting from all of this incredible opportunity that sits in front of us. And I think that combination, the grounding of a brand and trust that people know and love, combined with, I think a pretty well-run go-to-market and technology and product strategy that leans into decentralization and leans into actually lifting people up in the ecosystem. I think that's it's a dangerous combination. And it's what's made space for people to say, yes, I want to believe in this. I want to be based. I want to be a part of building something bigger than me.
Awesome. Okay, so on that kind of similar topic, we still hear, and this is a question from Alex Coons, right? The last one was from Lynx. We still hear infra is still not good enough, that UX is still not good enough, and all kinds of elements of the stack are not good enough, right, for consumer crypto. Do you think we're where we need to be right now? Do you think we're close to that sort of precipice? Where would you put us on that timeline?
I think we're close. It goes back to those three things I talked about. First, we need cheaper everything, and we've been making progress on that. Base was pretty cheap, and then we launched 4.44, and it got 90% cheaper, and we saw usage 5x. And we're going to keep driving down costs, and I think we'll keep seeing usage go up because I think in order for us to get the level of innovation that's possible, we need sub-second, sub-cent fees. We just need to be really easy and cheap for everyone to build on chain. And I think we're actually seeing more of that with L3s as well. Like you look at DGen, and I know Josik's in the audience somewhere, like the DGen L3 is unlocking new use cases because it's another order of magnitude cheaper than base. And so I think that kind of like driving down the fees, which will continue, is super, super important, but we've also crossed the threshold where basically anything's possible now, and it's just up to people build. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is the identity and social kind of substrate that we're starting to see built. Until we had that, you couldn't actually build great on-chain experiences. But now if you look at all the apps y'all are building and the products that I think are starting to be really successful, they just build in your social network. And that makes them an order of magnitude more engaging, more like interesting. That's something that you want to actually be a part of, something that you can see what your friends are doing, which gets you more retention. And so I think that was the second big part. I think the third part that has been missing is wallets still. They still are not good enough. And so 9 months ago, me and the base team, we said, like, we need another 10x improvement in order to get wallets to be good enough for us to onboard the entire world. And we went to Coinbase, we went to Coinbase Wallet team, we said, hey, you guys, like, how do we 10x? And after a bunch of work, we came up with this thing that's now called the Smart Wallet, that's in testnet right now, that's launching very soon. And I think that that's going to be another turning point where for the first time, you're going to have a wallet experience where you don't need a separate app, you don't need another extension, you don't need to go through a whole like onboarding experience that takes 5 minutes. You don't need to sit down with your friend and like once they put money in their wallet, give them the talk where you're like, don't fuck this up. Because if you fuck it up, you're going to lose all your money. Like all of us have done that, and it's not a way to onboard the world. And I think for the first time, we're actually just going to have a wallet experience that makes it really easy for an everyday person to go from never having used anything on chain to doing something on chain. And that's going to be this like final piece that like clicks into place, and then we will have the transformer that will then like, and we'll hit the inflection point and we'll go. And on top of that platform, the low fees, the incredible social substrate, and then the easier, better wallets, you're going to see those consumer applications emerge that everyday people just want to use and that they love, and then they come back to day in, day out, not because they're being paid or because there's some incentive, but because they're just really fucking good products. And I think that combination of those infrastructure pieces, those consumer products, is what's going to bring the entire world on chain.
Awesome. So a lot of those amazing products are going to require reputation. So what should on-chain reputation be based on, and who do you think should own it? This is a question by Ali Anushka.
I mean, I think on-chain, I don't think it should be owned by anyone, to be clear. Like, the important thing about on-chain is that for the first time, we own everything on-chain. Like when you bring yourself on-chain, when you bring your assets on-chain, when you bring whatever it is, you are still in control. And we like to talk about how everyone on Base is a builder. And what we mean by that is, whereas before, if you were bringing your creativity on-chain, you're bringing your creativity online into TikTok, you're building their network. And they control it and they monetize it. Now, when you bring your creativity, or you bring your identity, you bring your assets on chain on the base, you're building your identity, you're building your network, you're building your creativity, and you monetize, you own that, you get to benefit from it. And so I think that reality where we own our identity, we own our reputation is really, really important. Now, in terms of how I think it's going to come together, I think it's going to be much more monolithic and much more like heterogeneous and emergent than it will be monolithic and kind of like focused. Like there's not going to be a reputation protocol. Instead, there's going to be a million different applications, all of which have different kind of lenses into who you are that add their information about you on chain, where you can control what it is, you can control how it shows up, and you can kind of shape that to be who you are. And some of that's going to be things that look more financial, like credit. Some of that's going to be things that look more social, like Farcaster. And all of those are going to come together to create a holistic picture of who you are. That's going to be Jesse on chain. And that thing is going to be something that you own. And it's going to be something that lets you go and experience all these incredible applications as if they were built for you, not for some person elsewhere, but for you. I think it's going to be incredible.
Sweet. All right. So last question that you definitely don't have to answer, but when base token?
We have no plans for token.
LD.
And I think that's been like actually one of the greatest things about Base thus far, for two reasons. One is it's allowed a lot of kind of emergent creativity to happen. Like, because we haven't had a token, you've seen the rise of all of these other tokens where other people are filling the space. And I think that again is this emergent decentralization that we aren't always like planning, but is incredibly beautiful. And then the second thing that I think is really powerful about us not having a token is it's forced us to like just do it better. And I feel like grants are a great example of this. In the last 9 months, we don't have like $100 million, $200 million in a token that we can just kind of give out willy-nilly. Instead, like I have to go and like literally look at the dollars that I'm spending every month, of like how much dollars are we spending and how effective are those dollars being in supporting builders to create incredible things. And that's created this feedback loop where it's like, if we're being inefficient, we know, and I'm feeling the pain. And we're constantly trying to figure out how do we get more efficient at getting resources into the hands of builders. And so one example of this is we just did this thing called Base Builds or Rounds did this thing called Base Builds with us. If y'all don't know, Rounds is built by the Prop House team. They've been working on grant infrastructure. They're amazing. They've been doing this for 2 years. And just in the last few months, they launched this new thing called Rounds that basically is on Farcaster. It lets you reward people for posting in channels. And it just uses the Farcaster social graph to know what should be rewarded, because you look at the likes, you look at the recasts, you look at the replies, and that lets you get a better sense. And so they created this Base Builds channel, and they said, hey, every week, and this is happening this week, from Friday to Sunday, anyone can go in there and say, this week I built X, and share what they built. And depending on how much engagement they get, how much people like it, they're going to be rewarded. And so we ran the first round of that last week. And it was only Friday and Sunday. It's a weekend activity where you get to show off what you built that week. And we had hundreds of submissions and hundreds of people who got rewarded. And you scroll through the list, it's A, every single builder that got rewarded is incredibly high quality. B, they're doing all sorts of things. It's not just one thing. And then C, it was done in a completely decentralized way. I wasn't picking grants. Kabir wasn't picking grants. The ecosystem, the economy was saying, these are things that we believe in. And Farcaster was this social substrate that enabled all of that to be possible. So that's my answer on the token. I want to get to one more question, which is Cassie's question.
Yeah.
Which I thought, Cassie, you might want to ask, or we can read it out, because I think it's an important question, and I want to make sure we answer it.
I actually had two, but we'll go with the most voted one. Until decentralized, what will Base do in the event of a sanctioned entity interacting with Base? And predicting the response, yes, forced inclusions exist at the L1, but the withdrawals do not work the same way. So for that specific path, what's the response?
Thank you for the question. And I will say a huge shout out to Cassie, who always holds us accountable to achieving our decentralization goals. Thank you, Cassie. Like, the only way this works, the only way you actually end up building a decentralized global economy is if you have people who are willing to stand up and say, when is it going to decentralize? And why is it not good enough right now? And so to get to those two specific questions, on the what happens if Tornado Cash or other sanctioned activity happens on Base, we've been very clear and consistent from the beginning. Base is open and permissionless. Base is open and permissionless. We spent 9 months creating something called the Law of Chains, which is a neutrality framework that we co-authored with Optimism, that we have constructed the network of Base to explicitly enforce. And what that encodes is basically that the block space of Base is neutral and that it should have the same characteristics as Ethereum. And so when we talk about this sort of event happening, that is where we are starting from. Now, the second question that you're getting at, which is like, hey, there are actually limitations in the technology where today there are single points of control that could be coerced. And this is something that's important for all of us to recognize. Base's goal and our plan is to make Base open and permissionless. And in the early stage of decentralization that we're in, stage 0, there are points of control where if we were to get an injunction, we would have to go to court and we would fight in court to make sure that we keep Base open and permissionless. But there are still points of control. And so our P0 as a team has been eliminating those points of control as quickly as humanly possible. And the thing that I'm really excited about is that we are now within months of eliminating the points of control that you're talking about there. So within the next few months, we don't have a specific timeline. Fault proofs are live on testnet right now, and they will be going live on base mainnet. Similarly, we will be moving from a upgrade control structure for the base network, which is a kind of 2 of 2 multisigs right now with the base core team and Optimism Foundation, to a fully decentralized security council that has geographic distribution to make sure that it can't be coerced by any one country. And then finally, we're going to be enabling permissionless withdrawals so that there is no choke point on withdrawals, and anyone can go through the forced inclusion L1 mechanism to get their assets off of base. And so that's not there yet. I'll be very clear. Base is stage 0. We are going to be open and permissionless, but there are points of control. But we are within striking distance of eliminating those points of control and getting to a point where there's no one that can come and coerce anyone else to change those characteristics of the network. And so it's not perfect, and I don't think anything in base will be perfect, but the thing that it is it's the best that we've been able to do thus far, and it's going to keep getting better and better, because at the core of Coinbase, when you talk to Brian Armstrong, when you talk to me, our belief is that the only way to build an open global economy that everyone can participate in is to build a decentralized platform that runs on. That is the only way. If we do not build a decentralized platform, at some point it will be coerced and it will be captured. And so we're going to do everything we can. We're going to fight at every opportunity to ensure that this platform remains open and decentralized, and to ensure that that global decentralized on-chain economy is built. So, here we go.
Is anyone brave enough to follow that up with a question? We have time for one question. Colin's coming to you.
I don't know. I kind of want you to choose.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Front row.
Hey, I'm Tim. I'm from Pull Together, launching on base this month. Launching on
Pull
base
Together!
this month. Pull Together!
Also, when you talk about people who have stood up for freedom and crypto and DeFi, there's been almost no one who stood up more than Pull Together and Pooley in the fight that they've done over the last many years against a really bad case that they got thrown out, and that has, federally, that has paved the way for more innovation in the space. So huge shout out to Pull Together.
So pumped to be on base this month, and like to think of ourselves as normie friendly, and we're trying to be as normie friendly as possible. Wait, I can save money and win $1 million? Yes, I want this. And that's coming to base. And we're gonna have it, declaring it right now, manifesting. But when I talk to my normie friends, it's never UX issues, it's always gut, this is a scam issues.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, Jess, if you could talk to just, yes, tons of work to be done in the UX field, but how do we do those, address those emotional obstacles for people to get into crypto, where it's like, it removes the middleman, like you don't have to pay Spotify and all that stuff anymore for your music. So yeah, give us some talking points.
Yeah,
to do our evangelism.
I think this is like a massive brand exercise that all of us are doing. And like, we all have our own companies that we have to be building our brands for, but then all of us also have to be building our brand, the brand of crypto. We need to be standing with crypto. We need to be advocating and telling the world this isn't a scam. It's not just FTX. It's not just the things you hear about in the news. It's people building the next generation of the internet. And so when I think about how we do that, I think that one of the things that we've found to be most powerful is shifting the language and how we talk about this. And on-chain has been a huge part of that. Shout out to Zora and Jacob and Dee who invented that term, who I think have really been leading us from an industry perspective. And I think when you use the word on-chain, you talk about what we're building as this next generation of the internet. It's on-chain, not online. I think what we've seen is that people intuitively get it a lot more. And you can say, when you build on-chain, your creativity is yours. You can earn from it instead of the big companies. When you build on-chain, there are no middlemen. You get to go direct to your fans. When you build on-chain, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's global, it's better than anything you've ever used before. What we find is that with that language, and then with a small number of examples that people can see and feel and experience, they're converted. And so I think the work for all of us, and this summer's a great opportunity, is to bring the world to on-chain and to show them, as we tell them, that this is just better. It's better to be a part of this new future that all of us are building. And I think if all of us do that, the incredible thing is that we're all going to have a different way of doing that, and that's going to bring in different people, and it's going to create this incredibly diverse economy that makes it all possible. So that's it. I don't know if we're done, but I have two other asks for folks or tells. One is, if you're building on chain this summer, we would love to support you in some way. I mentioned it, but we have a couple $1 million plus of resources in grants and gas credits and funding. We're going to be running a month-long build-a-thon with a ton of incredible people in this room who are co-running it with us in June. We're going to be doing a ton of distribution through Coinbase and through a ton of other first-party kind of consumer interfaces that will get people into your apps. And it's going to be running all summer long, from June to August, end of August. And so I guess my ask here is, think about what you want to build and build it, and then share it with me, share it with our team. We were building a whole infrastructure to just get more distribution for all of you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you like this shirt, you want a base era shirt, there's also, I forget the other one. We have free shirts over there. These were made by the community. They were actually made by Thank You Base God. They're giving them away. And so anyone who wants a shirt, you can go get it over there. And you can rock base. And thanks everyone for coming. And thanks, Ted.